Yellow Enel. Guys, this is sometimes considered the cockroach of the One Piece card game, with how this leader never seems to quite go away. And as you know, Yellow's been really good for the past few sets, so naturally, Yellow Enel's actually doing quite good in the OP15 meta right now. This deck just really seems to be like a constant in this game. Yellow and L will always be good every few sets, at least once. You know what I mean? And that's definitely true right now. He's probably the best he's been in a little bit. So I built a deck with him. There's kind of a few ways to build him now. I'm going for something a little bit more like classic Starve Enel playstyle. So let's look over the list, and then I got 3 games to go over today. And you may be thinking, 3 games is a bit not that much, right? But if you're new to this leader, you're going to find out in this video that games against this leader tend to go on for quite a long time. So they're actually quite some long games. Uh, we'll get into discussing that. We'll start with the leader effect because that's kind of relevant to that whole long, drawn out game timer situation that this deck typically finds itself in. So when you hit 0 life once per turn, you actually get another life. And you have to trash a card from your hand so you don't actually gain more card draw. But you effectively, this is a 4 life leader, but this is actually a 5 life leader minimum. Because if you can kind of hover around 1 life and keep going back up, you're effectively getting extra healing with your leader effect constantly, and that's kind of how this deck plays. And that's why we're running this late game engine right here. We have 10 cost Ace, 10 cost Enel, and 8 cost Gecko Moria. All of these are very huge bodies that allow us to heal. So, if we hit 0, we can go back up to 1, which in this deck is effectively like healing for 2 because we get another life with our leader effect every turn when we're at 1 life and we go to 0. And these two 10 cost cards particularly only get the heal if we're at 1 or less life, so very good for kind of staying around that range. These two 10 costs also have Rush. This is a little bit more unique. You actually have to have 1 life or less when you heal. It says 2 life on the card, but this heals you. So unless you're not healing, you have to have like 1 life to get the heal and then get the Rush. Because if you're at 2, you go up to 3 and this doesn't get Rush, right? So both of these big rushers also very nice with kind of their own unique strengths. So as I said with this, you can heal. You can choose whether you want to get like the rush or the heal in certain situations. Let's say you're at 2 life. You can just play this out and just heal and not swing with it and pass and develop a 10k body. Nothing wrong with that in a lot of situations. Or you can not heal at all and you can rush in and try to kill the board. This Yellow Enel is a bit different because it always has rush, just period, baked into the card. Not on some on-play effect like the 10 cost aces. But it allows you to trash your card from your hand to heal if you're at 1 or less life. So it always has rush, but you're not always going to get the heal. And to get the heal, you do need to attack with it, which in this deck, due to the way you play, and we'll see in the games, you don't always want to attack, into their life, for example, right? Sometimes you kind of want to leave your board active so that they can't swing into it. And then lastly, the 8 cost Gecko Moria, 10k body with heal, very strong. And then because of this, we are running the Thriller Bark engine. Some people call it the Thriller Slop engine because it is quite annoying. And it's pretty small, honestly. It's surprising how consistent this card is with only 3 extra cards. And these cards are very strong 4 cost bodies that we can kind of just develop on the board. This Perona is amazing. Lets our slow down our opponent's game plan so they can't go super aggressive. This allows us to have a body that can replace itself so that we can swing with it and not have to worry about it being removed. And this is just a 2k counter with the same trigger as these cards, which they can all play each other from the trash on trigger, which is very nice in this deck because we're going to be healing a lot, so trigger effects are really good. While I'm talking about that, let's talk about our other 4 cost bodies. I'm running 3 Kikunojo and 2 Basil Hawkins. These are just 2 4 costs with really strong on KO effects. And typically people will try to starve Enel, by like only trying to swing into the board and not letting us take our own life. And having all these cards with these on KO effects is very helpful because we can develop this board and then they're kind of disincentivized to swing into it, right? Especially this Basil Hawkins can be really nice sometimes. They don't want to be trashing their own life because then we can threaten for lethal way sooner than we usually would be able to. And the Kikunojo, healing is also pretty rough. This can be really rough in other yellow decks, but honestly, I don't think this is as bad to swing into against Yellow Enel because, if you're not swinging at his life anyway, if he gets another one, it's not a big deal, you know what I mean? That's kind of how I think of it. But, 2 very good bodies, and they also Kikunojo has the effect of being able to trigger play it from your life, which is very powerful. And the Basil Hawkins is a draw 2 trash one, not so bad as well. And I guess another trigger body I'll talk about is the Salome. Before rotation, there was a variety of other 3-cost trigger blockers, right? Like this, I believe it was the Charlotte Brûlée was the OP1, or I think it was from a structure deck, but it's a block 1 card, and it pretty much was the same as this. So we're just running this card because, it's a trigger blocker, and kind of something nice that this deck has to do is because you're always at like 1 life, you know what I mean? A trigger blocker or a trigger from you're the one who should disappear, which gives you a heal only if this is the last card in your life, can just save you sometimes. And it makes it very hard for you to push against lethal into this deck because sometimes you're just going to get a trigger blocker or a trigger heal and that's it. You know what I mean? It's kind of over at that point if you get caught with that. So it's nice to run these cards to allow us to survive in rare situations like that. Also, blocker, it's just nice to have, trigger play this card. There's no cost to it. A lot of the times it's going to be nice to have a blocker on the board. And yeah, this is just overall a really solid card. And last but not least, I can talk about our counter. So we're running how many 2Ks? I believe we're running 4, 8, 10, 14 2K counters and 4 0-cost 3K events. The Charlotte Flampe, this is a nice 1-cost card. We can take our own life if our opponent's starving us, and then we're drawing effectively 2 cards with that because we're taking 1 from our life and then 1 from our deck. So really nice. Lets us get lower on life so we can start maybe healing with our 10 costs later in the game. Overall, very solid card. Nice if you don't have any other plays early game or if your opponent is trying to starve you. The 2K Kumasi we already talked about. This is just for the Thriller Bark engine. Zeus, another really powerful card that, allows us to kind of tap into our life as a resource if we're being starved, and also functions as a really solid removal card, being able to remove a 5-cost. I mean, hey, really relevant 5-cost right now, the Borsellino. I actually didn't get to talk about that. We'll talk about him in a second. This guy's kind of terrorizing the game right now. You may be familiar. But, lets us deal with blockers, lets us deal with bodies, wins tempo, card, lets us tap into our life. Overall, amazing card, really solid stuff. And the 0-cost 3K event, this trigger is just ridiculous in this deck. Because, in most yellow decks, you really only get like 1 opportunity to see this, and that's if it's at the bottom of your life at the start of the game. But with Enel, you're kind of like cycling through your bottom life so much that honestly, it's not super unlikely to see this card as your last life, and it is really frustrating for your opponent when they're about to get lethal, and then you just get another life because you triggered or you're the one who should disappear. It's ridiculous. This card is stupid. Gotta run 4 of. Also, we do run enough bricks and 1Ks or whatnot where this is nice just to get us some counter power if we don't need it. You can also pitch it from your hand. We have a lot of trashing effects with like this, and you know what I mean? So, honestly, really solid card in this deck. I think you gotta run it as a 4 of. Could mess with the ratios with that, right? And then last but not least, I said 2K counters, but I forgot about Borsellino. We gotta talk about Borsellino, guys. So, just a blocker, heals if you're at 2 or less life, really simple effect, really strong effect, gives you so much survivability. You are playing a blocker that also puts a life that's effectively absorbing 2 hits and giving you another chance for a trigger and giving you a resource. It's just insane in pretty much every yellow deck, especially yellow decks that are playing more control style, which most of them are right now, I believe. I believe this even works in aggro decks like Calgara. I'm not really sure though. But in this deck, it is incredibly powerful because just having like the option, because you're going to be at 1 life a lot of the time. You're going to be at maybe 1, 2 life. Sometimes you'll even be at 0. Being able to heal, play this blocker, stall for like another turn is just super important into this deck. Letting them just not push for lethal. That's how you win on Enel. You just, refuse to die. That's pretty much how this deck plays. And this just fits so perfectly into the game plan. Such a necessary card, such an amazing card, and in general, it's such an amazing card, but such a good card in this deck also. I have more things I'll say, but first we should look over the games, so let's get right into those. Alright, and for our first game, we are up against Blue Yellow Nami, serious top meta deck contender right here. These matchups we're going to look at today, these are no slouches of decks we're going to be playing up against. When I say Yellow Enel is solid, I mean it. He is not to be messed with in this meta. I'm not going to call him like one of the best decks or say he's like super underrated, but like does really good, especially into some of the other yellow decks as we'll see here. So we're off. Our opponent, I'm not going to say mistake, but something about Enel, if you're kind of a newer player, you haven't played back when this deck was relevant, you might not want to swing the way you usually do into life, because you may notice I'm just taking everything because I have so much heal and late game survivability that I'm just going to take all my life and just try to accrue a card advantage over you and eventually just develop a board and just win you through resources. Now, I am swinging at this Nami player. That was because I wanted them to be at 3 life for my Kikonojos. Honestly, looking back on it, kind of a misplay in my opinion. I should have went full starvation mode against them and just, not let them take any life, because they're just going to be able to heal back to 3 like they did here, and my Kikonojos on KO effects are not going to activate. I am kind of going all in on this strategy because I've realized, don't want me to have that Kikunojo on KO effect active, because if you don't know, you only get the heal if your opponent's at 3 or less life. And I'm realizing, I'm like, okay, they're just giving me all these cards from their hand for this. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to keep doing it. At that point, maybe I shouldn't have done it originally, but my opponent just messed up big time. I mean, guys, they just dumped their whole hand for that, and I didn't get to comment on it. It's going by pretty fast. We're on 2 times speed here because we're going to need it. These games are long. I already went down to 0 life, but, I'm back at 1. So, kind of, I would call that a mistake from the Nami player is, if the Enel is just going to heal back to 1 anyway and you're not going to put them at 0, don't swing. There's no reason to. Just giving me more cards, giving me more cycle. Yeah, but here they're able to swing into our Kikunojo. I'm just like, okay, I'll take it, because now I'm like, I didn't get my heal that I wanted from it so badly that I kind of, I think, played a little bit incorrectly to tunnel vision into that. But, I'm like, okay, I'm super up on cards now. We're approaching my 10 Dawn turn, I believe. How much Dawn do I have, actually? Yeah, we're at 10 here. So I'm going to be able to slam down an Enel and heal. But I am going to end up giving up this life because, yeah, I'm swinging into the Robin. It's going to burn a life. But I'm like, hey, I need to just clear his board. That's fine. I'm at 1 life. I'm really at 2 life, to be honest. I have all these cards in my hand. Thinking of triggering the hog back. No, I'm just going to keep the card in my hand. No need to develop a little body right now. Especially against Nami. It's nice to develop a kind of like wide board of like 5k and 6ks early on. But, Nami, probably not going to be playing too many little bodies. I'm not going to get too much value off of them. And we are in the late game now where I just want to be playing my big bodies. So, yeah, not even going to use the trigger. Just going to keep that card in my hand. Okay, guys, they slammed down an Edward Newgate. 10 cost Newgate. Yikes. That is a little bit scary, but, we've already developed our 12k body. We have probably another one coming this next turn. We got a Salome trigger. That's going to be really nice because, what's scary about them developing a 12k is the fact that they can now contend with my board, but because I have this blocker, they can't just load up and kill my Enel. So here's a super nice. We have multiple Enels in hand. I even decided like 3's a bit too many because you only need 2 here. Right, so I was at 0 and I got 1 heal from that 10 cost Enel because it was already on the board, and now I actually can get another heal if I play out a second one. It looks like I'm thinking of playing the Gecko Moria though. Oh yeah, because you know what? They don't have anything tapped on their board. You know what I mean? So I'm like, hey, if I swing at life, they're just gonna take it and get a free card. I don't want to do that, so I'm just gonna play a 10k body and heal rather than swing at their life and give them a card to heal. Even though establishing, the Enel's on board is nice, I'm just like, hey, I'll keep it in my hand, and I can play it out later when hopefully I'm waiting for them to tap this Edward Newgate so we can just go crazy into it and get it off the board, right? And here we are. We're fine, honestly. We have 2 life. I want to say we're winning on board. I can definitely say we're winning on board at this point. And crazy about Blue Yellow Nami is they were super down on resources, and even though we haven't been swinging into their life, they're just every time we take a life, they do get card draw. They're getting card cycle with the Edward Newgate. They just took their own life with the Zeus, got rid of our Kikunojo. They probably should have got rid of the blocker, in my opinion. I think that would have been the better play. Okay, here I am triggering the hogback. I think for the same reason I said earlier, I probably shouldn't have done that, but I should have just kept the 2k Kumasi in my hand, but it's not too big of a deal. Yeah, because I'm kind of also running out of board space. I don't really want to play over anything. So yeah, I would consider that not exactly a good play. It might end up working out here because they're tapping their little bodies on board. So now I have free 5k swings to swing with it into it. All right, they actually trashed their other 10 cost Newgate to heal with the Zoro. I don't think that's the right play at all. See, I think this is something that Enel is going to do really good into a lot of like Blue Yellow Nami players or maybe like Boa players or like these kind of modern yellow decks is, they're just kind of trying to heal like all the time, but a lot of their healing effects requires them to trash from hand. So you're only getting that card back if I swing at you. And as you can see here, I'm just not swinging. I just swing with my 12k swing into a little 2k body. I'm like, nope, I'm not giving you any life. You can develop your board as much as you want with your little 6ks and you can heal, but I'm just going to keep swinging into it. I'm not going to give you any card advantage. And yeah, I mean, we're just super up on cards against them. I'm thinking here I can take because it's like, you know, they can swing with the new gate, but that's what I want them to do, right? They're not even going to do it because they recognize, like, hey, I'm just going to block and then I'm going to kill their new gate because they don't have any way to defend it. But yeah, no, they tap the Zoro. That thing's just gone. Give me something free to swing into with the Enel so I don't have to swing into their life. Yeah, so I think at this point I've realized, like, okay, they're not going to swing with the 10 cost new gate, and we've developed enough of an advantage. This is kind of the hard part with Enels. You know what I mean? You can kind of sit here and just pass every turn and not swing at them, but eventually, you know, you have to win the game. So I think here I've decided, like, okay, you know, I have a blocker. I have all these cards in hand. I'm feeling pretty safe, honestly. Yeah, I'm going to be up to 3 life. Now we have 4 just monsters on the board and a blocker. I'm feeling really safe. So I'm like, hey, you know, now's a good time to start swinging. It kind of doesn't feel good because typically, you know, the safest thing is to wait for when you've, like, completely wiped their board to start swinging. But I'm like, you know, this guy's clearly not going to bite with this new gate. And they're also just going to keep healing. So I'm like, you know what? They're also winning back on resources. So I'm like, yeah, you know, we just got to swing for it. And I'm kind of hoping also that they, you know, they block one of these 10k swings with the new gate, so then I can swing into it. But they're not, yeah, once again, they're just not biting. They're not swinging with it. They're not blocking with it. They're not giving me any opportunity to kill it. Cute little trick there they did, just summoning the Zoro from hand to get an extra heal on the on-KO effect of the Nami, but they are giving up cards to do that, you know, so they're still at 5 cards here, yeah. We are swinging into life. Maybe they're thinking about blocking this. No, they're just going to take it. Yeah, that's definitely the right play here. Because I'm telling you guys, if they blocked that in 1K, I would have put 10 on leader and swung a new gate. That's definitely what I would have done there. Yeah, here I'm thinking of playing the Borsalino, but I don't want to cover anything on my board. I'm like, hey, I don't really need to. So I'm just going to pass with 10 Dawn up. I mean, it seems really weird, you know, and now it's a very different play style. And I'm not going to say that I'm doing everything super efficiently. I have to say I'm actually not really like a dedicated NL player. I've kind of dabbled in this deck every now and then, but you know, due to like how unique of a play style he is, I don't think I have anywhere near like a good understanding of really how this deck plays. So, you know, if you're kind of watching this game and you're thinking like, oh, this is a really interesting way of playing NL, maybe I should follow this, you know, just use some of your own thoughts as well, because I'm not really like, you know, the most trustworthy source on how to play Yellow Enel, right? I'm sure there's a few plays that I'm doing that are not exactly correct, and I think I'm kind of getting away with it with the fact that I think our opponent here does not fully understand the matchup, which, you know, is not to discredit our opponent. You know, Yellow Enel is kind of a weird deck where you really need to learn how to specifically play into him. Oh, so here, you know, I thought a lot on that counter. I'm actually going to pause for this play. So I knew I was going to go down to 0 right there, and I'm like, okay, I have this blocker, but, you know, surely they wouldn't be swinging. They probably have some way to get rid of my blocker, either through an unblockable attack like the Sanji, or a 2-cost Zeus is really what I was thinking of. And I was like, okay, 2-cost Zeus would probably be the cheapest way to get rid of my blocker. So I'm like, okay, if they spent 2 Dawn to use the Zeus to get rid of my blocker, how much would they be able to swing with the new gate, and can I get out of it? That's the decision you have to make before I took that 8k swing with the Robin. So I counted their Dawn. I'm like, what do they have? They had 1 on their leader, so I'm like, okay, they have 9. So they would have 7 if they played Zeus. 7 into 12, or plus 12, that would be 19k. And I mean, I looked at my hand, and I'm like, I actually can get out of a 19k swing and have cards to spare. So if they're going to do this with the Zeus and get rid of my blocker, I'm actually going to counter out, and I will just be able to heal next turn with my 10 cost NL. I'll probably be able to get rid of their new gate, and it would just be over at that point for them. But they actually played out the 3-cost Sanji, so in a way even better, because, okay, they used an extra Dawn, so I'm easily able to get out of it, even more so than I was if they played a Zeus to get rid of my blocker. But what the nice part is they didn't actually, you know, kill my blocker. So now they're going to swing here. We're going to watch what happens. Yep, they're going to load up. They're going to go 18, and I'm just like, hey, I'll give you all my cards. That's it. And we'll see what happens here. Yep, the opponent DCs, they say, nope, I'm done. I scoop, you got that. They don't want to sit here anymore because they know that they just lost the game with that play. So let me explain what was going to happen if they continued to play this game. Is the nice thing about them playing the Sanji here is that I actually still had a Salome on board. My blocker wasn't removed from the board. I would have it next turn. Well, actually, funny enough, they do have another Sanji on the top deck. Maybe that changes things, but we'll ignore that for now. Let me talk about what's going to happen. I was going to swing with my 10 cost NL into their new gate, and I was going to heal, so I'm going to go back up to 1, and I still have a blocker. And then the rest of my Dawn is just going to be, I'm going to be swinging like 14, 14, 14 at the new gate, and they're not going to be able to get out of it. Not 14 maybe, but higher than that. And I'm just going to be swinging everything I have with this new gate. They're going to give me the 3-cost Sanji blocker, or they're going to give me every card in their hand, or they're going to give me the new gate, and I'm still sitting at 1 life, which is effectively 2 life in this deck. And I have this blocker, and at that point, I mean, guys, it's just, if we get rid of that new gate, they just can't come back, and we have a blocker, and we have 1 life, which is effectively 2 life in this deck. Yeah, it's just over. Maybe something changes about the Sanji, if they could just do the same play next turn and they were actually able to counter out of the new gate. I'm not doing the math right now, but I don't know. Let me know in the comments if this is actually a guaranteed win for me, if I'm able to guaranteed get this new gate off the board next turn. And if I don't, do they actually kill me by doing the Sanji play again? Let me know what you guys think, but we're going to move on to the next game. Alright guys, for our second game, we are up against Mihawk. Mihawk's still a pretty good deck in this format right now. I've seen people kind of opinionate both ways about him, like, oh, he's a little overrated, he's a little underrated. I think he's solid, you know, regardless of where you put him. He's still good, you know, he's not unviable by any means. So yeah, serious deck to contend with. Right here, I noticed this guy knows what's up with the Enel matchup. They did not swing into us. They're like, nope, I'm not going to give you any cards, but hey, that's what the Flampe is for. We played that, we took our life, we drew, and now we have quite the card advantage over them. So here, you know, maybe I could just develop the Perona, but I'm thinking, you know, into green, they have a lot of ways to, like, rest stuff or just kind of, like, freeze things. So there's no need to develop my board. They're just going to be able to interact with it. So I'm just going to pass with 4 Dawn up. And it seems really weird if you've never played against Enel before. But, you know, sometimes that's the plays you got to do. You just pass and, you know, let your opponent dig their own grave, right? Because now we have things we get to swing into with them. Funny enough, they played out the Perona because they're trying to develop their board. So now we have a target for our 4-cost Perona. We can just make them so they can't swing with that. And then, yep, we're just going to go use the rest of our Dawn swing into this Searcher. Just make sure we get it. We're going to get it no matter what. They're not going to counter out. But, you know, might as well free Dawn. Get that off the board so they can't draw cards. And, yeah, they can't swing with the Perona. Which, you know, there's something to be said. Maybe we want to let them swing with it so we can kind of, like, deal with it. But, you know, it plays another body. It has the on-KO effect where it plays a 6K. Maybe not necessary to, like, let it attack. You know, let's just develop our Perona and see where we go from there, right? Okay, so they are actually swinging at this point. That's a bit interesting. And funny thing, I'm talking about how I'm going to take every hit, but I actually did counter there with a 2K. So why did I do that? I want to play the 8-cost Moria next turn, and you need to heal off of trash with that card. So I'm like, I need to put something in my trash so I can play that next turn and get a heal. So that's pretty much what that's about. Even now that they're playing Arrested Body, actually, yeah, I don't think I'm going to play an 8-cost Moria. I'm just going to load up everything and kill that blocker before it can be restanded next turn. But, you know, it's nice to have the stuff in my trash, so whenever I play that out, I'll have a target so I can heal with it, you know what I mean? And I don't just have to play a dry 8-cost 10k body with no on-play effect. Yep, doing exactly what I said. I'm just like, nope, I'm not even going to leave a Dawn up. I'm just going to put everything, go into that blocker, make sure I get it off the board. We're at 3 life. I'm feeling super safe. I can make plays like this, you know what I mean? Don't even need to swing into the Kidney Killer with our Perona. It's just a 2k body, and besides, due to its on-opponent attack effect, where it gets to trash itself, there's no reason to. He would just use the effect anyway. And then we just have Arrested Body. We're going to keep this 5-cost, or 5k Perona on the board for later. Especially because it seems like the deck of Mihawk this guy's playing is a kind of like a Supernovas package. He's running the Searcher, he's running the 5-cost Bonnie, he's running the 6-cost Law. And he's kind of playing a lot of, yeah, like 6k bodies, 5-cost bodies. So I'm like, you know, having a small body in this matchup is a little bit more important than having one in Nami. All right, here, once again, they're not swinging into us. They're just developing our board. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to play a 10-cost. I'm just going to play a 10-cost 10k. You swing when you're ready. And, you know, I'll be ready to counterattack. That's kind of what I'm telling him. Right? So, yeah, if he doesn't want to swing here, I have enough monsters in my hand. I'm perfectly prepared to just, you know, start developing. But no, he is going to say, like, okay, I have enough bodies. I got to get him. I can't just let him heal forever. I need to swing, right? So it sucks that he's going to give us all these cards here. We're not super advantageous over him. We only have, like, a few cards over him. But, you know, swing into life is going to make that harder for him to maintain that kind of evenness that we have right now. So he's thinking, especially he has all these blockers on the board. So, yeah, he has to really think about whether he wants to swing with his board or not now. Because he kind of does need to put some pressure on us so that he can threaten for lethal. But at the same time, you know, he doesn't want to just lose everything, right? That's kind of the balancing act when you're playing against Enel. You know, you want to make sure you can develop like a big enough board where you can push for lethal in one turn, because you can't really win like a sustained game against the Enel because he'll just keep healing every turn every time you knock him down to 0. So you need to like have him low enough, maybe have him at like 2 life or 1 life, and have a huge board so you can just push for a lethal in one turn with a bunch of swings. This 5 cost Bonnie is going to be really good against us. He's actually going to make it so our Dawn doesn't get untapped next turn, so we cannot play a 10 cost. This is actually a very niche situation where the 8 cost Moria is actually very useful, because if we're just playing a bunch of 10 cost bodies, you know, we don't have any way to heal now, but we have the 8 cost Moria, so we are going to be able to heal and develop a body next turn. Here I'm like, okay, yeah, I can't go down to 0. I want to keep 1 life minimum so I can go up to 2 this next turn with the 8 cost Moria. So here, yep, it's going to be just 6 into here. They're probably just going to give us a card, and then they're going to block out of this. Yep. We're just going to heal and say, okay, you can go for game again if you want, but I have a ton of cards in hand. I don't think you're going to get it, right? Now, if you were to keep playing some of those 5-cost Bonnies out, that could be quite rough for us, not being able to develop a 10 cost, especially now. We don't have any more Enels in hand. That's something nice also about Borsalino. You know, if you just strictly need a heal on a turn, it's a 5-cost card. I mean, it's a 5-cost heal, really strong, you know what I mean? And we're pretty much always at 2 life or less, so you'll always be able to heal with the Borsalino, pretty much. Something scary about Mihawk is, you know, he can develop the 10 cost Beppo and Law, which can freeze our bodies, and then it's an 11k body on its own. But he actually has not played out that card yet. He might not have it. It looks like he's searching for it too, because he's, you know, playing his little 2-cost searchers. And yeah, so I counted out of that first hit, because something you got to be aware of as an L is, you know, if they're swinging very small numbers at first, you have to say like, okay, you know, I want to take everything because I just like to take my life. I'm an L, you know what I mean? You also have to make sure that they can't push for lethal, because if you just take every 5k swing and then you go down to 0 and they swing 10, even if you can get out of it, you're losing a bunch of cards for no reason. So yeah, I counted out of the 5k here because I'm like, okay, you can't kill me now. I'm perfectly fine. I'm feeling completely safe. And you know what's funny? They actually did play out another 5-cost Bonnie using the 6-cost Law. I think they actually replayed the same one. But they didn't freeze our Dawn. They froze our 10-cost Ace, which I get why they did it, so we can't swing into their board. But honestly, I think a bit of a misplay, because now we get to develop a 10k Rusher right here. Yep. It's an argument to play out the Enel, but, you know, I like this Ace. It doesn't make us trash a card from hand, so it's strictly we're going positive on resources. And, you know, I'm kind of being weary of the Beppo and Law. I'm like, okay, that should be coming out any time now. And that, once again, allows him to freeze a card on our board. So I don't want him just freezing that 10-cost Enel and then being able to swing into it the next turn, because that's the one I want on board the most. So here I'm like, I have 3 life. He could go all in here with his 4 attacks and try to swing, but this is a situation where I'm like, okay, if I have to give a bunch of cards up on the next attack, I think it's worth it, because he'll have to swing with his blocker, and then we'll just be able to wipe his board. We'll be able to play out a 10-cost Enel to go back up to 1 life, and he's going to have no board, right? And I know this is a green deck. He doesn't have any rushers, so, well, Hody Jones he could have, but no one's running Hody Jones anymore, guys. Surely this guy's not running Hody Jones. And even then, we would probably still have enough cards to be able to get out of a swing like that, because it would only be like, what? Yeah, you would have to go like 6, 7, 7. We'd be able to get out of like 1 7k and we'd live, right? So that's not even like a threatening play. So I'm like, yeah, if he wants to swing 4 times at us and try to, you know, kill us, I'll just counter out. He'll have a completely rested board and we'll just demolish him, to be quite frank, right? Because he's just going to be no board. We're going to be 1 life, which is, remember, effectively 2 life in this deck. And yeah, he just has nothing at that point. Okay, but he is instead playing out another blocker, just getting some card draw, trying to get some blockers on the board. Not doing too much though. Yeah, this opponent seems to not have his late game, which is really what we're scared of here. Because in a situation like this where you're just playing out a bunch of 6Ks and you're not really threatening me with lethal at all, like, okay, I'll just eat up your board, I'll eat up your hand size, I'll eat up your blockers, and, you know, I'm fine with that. Completely fine with that. So we did counter out of that other hit. We are going to end up just taking this blocker swing. They're going to put us to 0. You know, it seems like a good thing to like put an L to 0, because it's like, oh, now he doesn't have a life for next turn. But this deck has so much heal, guys. I'm just going to go back up to 1. I don't think it's a right play to do that. He should have just kept his blocker active here, because now we're just going to get to completely destroy this board, right? And something to know about the Perona, you know, because it does have the on KO effect where it plays a 6K. But I'm like, he has to rest a card to do that. So if he wants to rest a card to play another 6K, he has to rest that blocker. It's his only active card. And I'm like, okay, I'll take that too. So yeah, he's not going to do that because he, understands that. And yeah, guys, we have an Enel. He has no board. This is a losing state, in my opinion. I think our friend, the Green Mihawk player, has already lost this game. It's already completely over. At this point, even if they play a Beppo and Law and they freeze our Enel, we have more heal in hand. We have enough bodies. Probably next turn, we're going to start swinging at life. That's probably how this is going to start going. This is a situation where it's like, okay, we won. Let's take our win. Let's drop them to 0. Let's get it. That's kind of what we're thinking now. And our friend, the Mihawk player, is desperate to get our Enel off the board. Look at this, 15k into 11. He just decided, he's like, okay, I can't win. I just need to see if I can get this at least. Maybe this will help me. He doesn't get it, obviously. We have so many cards in hand, but he kind of had to go for a play like that. If he can't establish his own bodies, which he doesn't seem to have because he hasn't done it for the past few turns. And yep, we're just swinging 7. We're just swinging 7, 10, 10, 12. Yep. Now here, yeah, I was thinking of a Luna trigger because I was like, okay, he can get a trigger that can like rest the NL or something, and then I won't get the heal off of it. So it's weird sequencing to swing with the 12k first, but I did it just to play around triggers. I should have done that earlier, but I kind of realized halfway through swinging here. And if you look in the chat, guys, we have a little bit of a context from our opponent. So it turns out that all their Law and Beppos were in their life. It's a card game. Stuff like that happens. You get unlucky like that. Yeah, very tragic. I'm over here telling him, I'm like, oh my goodness. Because I was thinking this whole game, I'm like, where are they? Yeah, I'm like, I've been waiting for him to play one of these cards. Yeah, there it is. A little too late here at 0 life. But, that's kind of the story of where that goes. Our opponent just got really unlucky that game. Maybe he could have competed with us if he had some of his late game. But yeah, it seems like he didn't get any of that. Yeah, he has a bunch of cards in hand, honestly. And we don't need to go for game because we can just heal again with another ace. So we're just going to swing 10, 10, 10. 10 again with another ace, rush in, and probably not kill him this turn. But yeah, I mean, our opponent lost at this point. It's just unwinnable for him. He's at 0 life. Losing all his cards, losing his blocker. Yeah, we literally have a full board of 10k plus bodies. So it's just over for our opponent. Very unlucky not seeing your late game into an L, but yeah. That's how this game rolls. It's a card game. Yep, he DCs, he realized like, okay, I lost, no need to play this out. So, yeah. Unfortunate, not getting the cards you want, but it's part of the game. It is what it is. But yeah, that is a prime Yellow Enel game. I mean, look at our board. That's just, if you play Enel, you're looking at that and you're like, oh my gosh, that's beautiful. That's what I want to see every game, right? And yeah, that's how it goes. This is how you win with Yellow Enel. You just, starve them out. You just keep going. They can't kill you. You develop your board, and then yeah, you just go for it at the end once you have a full board like this. Let's move on to our next and final game. Alright, and last but not least, we got a special game for you guys right here. We have the mirror match. And let me tell you guys, this is a long one. Strap in. This is gonna be a very long game. You can imagine that a deck that plays like this is gonna, the mirror match is just gonna be miserable. Which, yeah, it is. Our opponent, though, is swinging into our life. Maybe he kind of has a different game plan he wants to go for here. But you're going to notice here what happens is after he notices that we don't swing at him, he's like, okay, we're playing this game. And he stops swinging at our life. That's something to be said. Sometimes Yellow Enel does want to swing. Also, there's different builds of Enel that are a little bit more aggro. I actually have one. I think I'll show it at the end of the video. It's like a Burning Life focus deck. And sometimes you got to make sure that the other Enel player isn't playing that. Because if they are and you're trying to starve them, they're like, well, I'm not trying to play the late game, so that's fine if you don't want to swing into my life, because now you're just not going to be able to win the game. And it's like, yeah, so you got to make sure to kind of check them sometimes. Maybe not, though, because probably most Enels right now are playing the late game control build rather than the aggro build. So our opponent's thinking here, he is running the 4-cost Zoro. That's a card that I'm not running in the deck, and, it seems nice, like, okay, what a strong, cheap heal option. But, all these healing cards where you have to trash a card from hand, they're great cards if you're kind of playing a more, like, curve-focused deck. But for what Enel's doing, and for people, if they're not going to swing into you, you're just trashing a card from your hand and developing a weak little 6k body, you know what I mean? It's not very strong. Now, the 7k Kuma right there is a little bit more of a contender for something that might want to be added to this deck, because the heal is free, it has an on-KO effect. It's a pretty solid card, to be honest. But yeah, I'm not running it. Don't feel like I need it. But, you know, worth considering for sure. In my opinion, more so than the 4-cost Zoro. The real benefit of the 4-cost Zoro is being able to trigger it off of the 8-cost Gecko Moria, and that can kind of save you sometimes, giving you an extra heal. But, you know, it's a little niche in my opinion. So yeah, both of us here were starving each other, but hey, we both saw Zeus's. I was able to get his 4-cost Zoro. He was able to get my blocker. We're kind of developing our own board. I must say, though, I'm not, in retrospect, not sure I should have been developing these 5k bodies because I'm probably just going to play over them. I'm not going to swing with them. You know what I mean? I haven't swung into his life at all. Yeah, you see us here. We're just playing 10-cost bodies and passing. Yep, he does the exact same thing. We're just not swinging at each other. This is how it goes. Now I'm a bit scared because, you know, he's played his second 10-cost Enel, and I'm like, I don't have any more big bodies in my hand. So I'm like, maybe what I need to do is try to get him to start tapping his board, and I gotta just start swinging here. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do. Now he gets the trigger Kikanojo. A bit unfortunate, but it's not that big of a deal. And I'm kind of like not sure what my play should be. Okay, I just play out a Kikanojo. I'm gonna pass. Yeah, because I didn't want to put him at 1. Because it's unfortunate to just give him 2 cards for free there. But I don't want to put him at 1 and keep going. Because number 1, I don't want to swing with my 10 cost. And if I just swing with the leader and he goes down to 1 life, he's just going to get it back with the 10 cost and out, right? So I just accomplished nothing. So, yeah, kind of a weird play. I'm not really sure if that was the right thing to do. But I'm like, hey, these hogbacks are kind of useless, to be honest, on my board. So I'm just going to rest them, give him the opportunity to swing into them. And he saw us swinging, so maybe he's kind of deciding, like, okay, I can get in on that now. He has enough small bodies that are, once again, a little bit more expendable, so he's maybe thinking the same thing of, like, okay, I can just swing with these. If he kills it, it's not a big deal. Now, yeah, because of the fact that we're at lower life, though, I do need to watch out for him pushing for lethal, because if I end up having to take a 11k swing at 0 life, that would be pretty bad for us here. But yeah, that's not going to be what ends up happening, because yeah, I'm at 1 life. All he can really do is put us down to 0, but then we just get a heal again with our 10 cost Enel. And I'm getting all this card draw. Yep, we have the draw 2 trash one with the Basil Hawkins. I'm kind of looking for more heal. And guys, I didn't really play around that, but yikes, yeah, I'm going to have to take an 11k swing. Lose all of my card advantage here. Really bad. I didn't think about the fact that he could have a rusher in his hand and just play it as a rusher. You know, I'm kind of thinking it's more like the ace where you only get the rush if you're at low enough life, but the 10 cost Enel is not like that. You can just play it as a rusher, right? So you always have to think about that. So that was really bad here. Now we are way more even on card size. I lost my hand size advantage, and he definitely has the board advantage over me, right? So I'm kind of swinging his life. He needs to counter out of these, or I'm going to do the same exact play to him, and he has less cards, so he's probably not even going to live, right? So that's kind of what we're going for here. I can still threaten lethal with my 4 attacks here, so he's going to take this. But he either has to get out of this or get out of one of the big ones. So yeah, he's like, okay, I'll give him the 2k. And now at this point, I get to swing with my board into his board. Because now I can't threaten lethal anymore. So I'm just like, okay, I'm just going to get more cards off his hand. I'm just going to get more, you know. Yeah. Ooh. I should have swung into the Kuma first. Because, yeah, so I realized there, I might have done it. I might have played the A cost Moria if I had the opportunity to, instead of playing out the 2 Borsas, because I didn't think I was going to be at 0 there, right? So that was really sad, because I healed the life with the Enel and I immediately lost it due to the Kuma's on KO effect. I think I wasn't really thinking about that. I definitely should have swung into that first while I was at 0 life so that it did nothing. But, you know, we have double Borsalino. I'm feeling safe. I have to be honest, I'm feeling quite safe. He can get our board here, which is probably what he's going to do. Yep, he's going to go 12. Yep. And I'm kind of thinking, like, okay, I can block out of 2 of these, but, you know, maybe I can get out of another, like, 12k swing, or it would be 13k now into this Enel. I'm like, it has 1k more power, make him use more Dawn on it. And then if I can counter out of 1, I can block out of the other 2, and I can save my board. But yeah, I had to let go of the ace there, unfortunately, because I'm probably just going to lose one of these no matter what this turn. And yeah, he is swinging small into it. Thank God we're able to counter out, because now we can just block out of these next 2 hits. He doesn't have any rushers because he used his Dawn. So that Enel is going to stay on the board. So yeah, he's realized, he's like, okay, I'm not even going to go for it. So we're just going to take the life with the Kikunojo. Ooh, guys, that's a card I didn't talk about, but he just played 6-cost event Raigo, where it trashes all your life until you're at 1, and then it removes any card on the board. So very strong there. He actually was able to completely wipe us out. And that's really bad. Now, he does have no cards, so I've realized, like, okay. And I still have my blockers. So I can't actually guarantee it if I go, like, 15 there. Oh, so the reason I swing 5 at life first is because with my Borsalinos on the board, funny enough, he had no cards. I could have actually threatened lethal, so he had to get out of the 5k right there. That was the easiest swing he was going to get. And then by doing that, I was able to guarantee take the Enel off the board. And this is a really rough state for us. I mean, typically this would be a losing state in most matchups, but we are also Yellow Enel. You know, we can live. We can survive. So, yeah, I'm going to take all of these. I'm like, okay, I need more cards. I need more late game. If I need to use a blocker to tap into my life pool and get more cards, so be it. So that's what we're doing here. We get the Tranky trigger. I guess it's nice. 5k body. Let's just threaten lethal once again. But yeah, not going to go down to 0. I'm just going to be like, okay. And him playing out the Borsalino is really bad for us, guys, because now I can't swing into his Enel again. So this is a really rough spot because it's like, I don't know if I can live if I play out the 8 cost. Well, let me see what happens. So because I'll be at 2 life, and I don't have a lot of cards, but no, yeah, I think this is a reasonable play. Because, yeah, he needs to chew through 3 life. And I guess he would have, if he wants to swing 4 times, he has to swing with the Borsalino, which if we can counter out of that, we'll be able to hopefully start fighting his board now, because we have a 10k on our own board and we can actually swing into his bodies. Now, scary thing here is he is going to swing 5k, so I'm like, okay. I don't know if I want to take this risk of being able to lose here. But then I realize, okay, I'm like, yeah, I can actually counter out of the Borsalino, or not counter, block for free. And now, you know, he wants to swing into the Borsalino, get it off now. So I actually found a way to get him to swing with his Enels without, you know, threatening our life super. Because now he can't really threaten lethal. Or, I mean, he kind of can, but he would have to use, like, the Hiyori, and he's not going to do that. Let's be honest. It would be super Don inefficient. We'd probably be able to counter out, and then he would just, yeah, rest his blocker, and he would just be screwed next turn. So he's going to be like, okay, best thing I can do at this point now that he blocked that is to just swing into it, right? But our opponent's thinking about it because he's like, you know, like, okay, is it bait? I don't know what that was about. I guess it doesn't make a difference. I don't know. That was just a complete mistake by our opponent there. Honestly, if he was able to swing 6 into that, nah, he still wouldn't have been able to threaten lethal, so we were fine blocking there. But yeah, I just kind of did nothing with that Dawn. I don't know. That must have been a misplay to some kind of extent. Yep. But there he goes. What was going to happen eventually? Yeah, he's going to swing with the Enel, and now it's like, okay. So what I'm thinking here is there a way for me to guaranteed get that Enel off the board? Because he has a blocker, and he has 2 cards in hand. And I can't swing 13 twice. So I'm like, maybe I just have to hope that he has a brick in hand, and I just swing 11 at it twice. But then even if I get one of them, you know, I'm going to be at 1 life here. Am I going to be able to survive? So maybe you're going to have to play out this other Borsalino in my hand and then kind of like swing in his Enel and get his Borsalino blocker off the board. I think another play actually is with the Zeus in my hand. I'm thinking, okay, maybe I can get rid of his Borsalino blocker. But then the problem is, you know, at this point, we are definitely very scared of having lethal pushed against us. And taking a life for that 2 cost Zeus is kind of bad, especially if we're just going to be left at 1 right here. We want to be at 1 minimum, right? If we're at 0, we're screwed. So I'm like, okay, I can play the Zeus, but only if I can play out the Borsalino. But then that's 7 Dawn. I only have 3 Dawn, so I can go 13 into 11. So if he has a 2k, 1k in his hand, then, you know, we're screwed. He's going to keep that Enel on the board. But I'm kind of thinking, and I'm like, yeah, that really is the best play I can do at this point, right? I can swing 13 into his Enel and then just play out, or play the Zeus first, right? Get the blocker. So that's what I'm doing here. Yep, swinging 13. I'm just hoping he doesn't have this counter. But he actually had it. We did have to get him to give up a Borsalino. And at this point, I'm like, okay, so I have a life. I effectively have 2 life. I have a Borsalino blocker. So if he can't deal with the blocker and he just is in a top deck situation, I actually live this turn. So really what it's come down to is I'm going to get put to 0 this turn. And I need another heal card. So in those cards that I get, I need to get another heal card. He's going to go 15k. And, you know, I think his best odds of winning is doing what I said. But I realize here, I'm like, wait, I just block. He can swing only 11. And I would just be able to counter out. But then I'm like, wait, he's just not going to swing because he did that just to get the blocker. And now he's calling it to me. He's like, hey, you don't have another heal card. So, yeah. Yeah, I'm going to push for lethal next turn now. So I'm like, okay. I top decked an ace, which is very nice, but, you know, still kind of like, do I just want to pass? And I'm like, yeah, you know, he has less cards than me. He's less likely to be able to like have another Rygo or have more late game than I am. So I'm going to force him to go on the offensive here. Now, he's swinging. So I guess now that we played that, maybe he's doing the situation I was saying earlier where he's just going to put us at 0 and hope that we don't get another heal card. We do get an ACOS Mario, so I'm like, okay, I'm going to keep that. I kind of need to. He's not even going to. Wow, guys. I mean, yeah. This guy's playing very safely, very well. He's developing the Kikunojo, developing the blocker. I don't know if the blocker was necessary. Maybe he should have kept that in his hand. I'm not really sure. I think I'm thinking here of swinging with my 5Ks. I mean, yeah, this is a tough situation. We're just passing left and right, guys. But I'm realizing, I'm like, hey, if you just keep swinging one at me, eventually I'm going to run out of ability to healing, and he's going to be able to push for lethal. So I kind of have to start thinking a little bit more proactively. So here, I guess I'm counting. So I'm seeing if I can get out of some of these Enel swings. I have a lot of 2Ks, so I believe I can, yeah. So it looks like our opponent is going to go for it here. Yeah, because I'm thinking here, I'm like, okay, he can go like 13. So I'm like, I believe I have to get out of this. Yeah, because I can't get out of the next one. So I'm like, okay, I get out of this. And, you know, I'm at 1 life with no cards now, but at the very least, he has a 10 cost Enel tapped on his board. So I can actually fight for board now. He only has 1 card in hand. I mean, we'll probably be able to get it. All I need to do is swing 11 into it twice, which is just 2 Dawn out of my hand. So I'm like, I need, like, survivability for next turn because he's going to have that other 10 cost Enel, and, you know, I just got to make sure that he doesn't have any way to, like, get another rusher or get more attacks. Ooh. Swinging with the Salome. I guess it gets a card out of hand, but now he actually tapped both of his Enels, and I realized here I top decked the Borsalino. So this was a scary situation because actually I'm going to clear his board here, definitely. But now I'm at 0, so that's what he was going for, getting a card out of my hand and then putting me at 0. Okay, which is fair. But we clear his board. So if I didn't top deck that Borsalino, or get it from life, or wherever I got it from, I actually would have lost here because I wouldn't have had to wait. I think, yeah, that's the only way to heal with this much Dawn on our deck. But we get the Borsalino. He has no board. Super lucky from us. I mean, down to the wire game. Funny enough, actually, the turn timer is going off on our opponent. Look, he has 15 seconds left. So, yeah, he DCs. He realized he lost because, yeah, he just had nothing. We were just going to... He literally had no cards in hand, nothing on board. And, yeah, saved by Borsalino. I think we played out all 4 of them that game. I mean, that game was just down to the wire. Super long. And, yeah, that's what it's going to come down to in this Enel mirror match sometimes. It's going to be like, hey, you're going to get lucky. That is kind of unfortunately baked into this deck quite a bit, but, you know, it leads to cool moments like that at the very least, where we were definitely saved by having a Borsalino there. Our 4th one the whole game. I mean, yeah, super duper lucky. And then look at this, guys, just to add insult to injury, our last life was You're the One Who Should Disappear, so there was just no chance of him getting through any of our defenses in this game. So yeah, super crazy mirror match, super lucky draw that won us the game right there. And, you know, kind of unexpectedly, you know, it's not like it won us the game right there, but it's like, hey, if I didn't have a way to heal there, he actually would have been able to just swing 15 at life and kill us next turn. So really well played by our opponent, recognizing that he can put us in a situation like that. And, you know, to me, that's kind of the interesting part about Enel is, you know, like, he just gets you to, like, think in different ways. Like, you know, maybe it seems like all these, like, unconventional plays that me and my opponent are doing this game, but they're actually very well thought out when you look into them sometimes. Maybe not from me so much. I think I kind of made a few misplays this game. But our opponent definitely had a great understanding of, like, using all of his board and all of his resources to kind of put us in a situation where he can actually push for game. And, yeah, super well played from our opponent there. We did just get a bit lucky, but that's how it goes in yellow matchups. That's just how it is. And, yeah, those are the games. Super long ones. Let's go back to the deck list and discuss it a little bit more. Honestly, I haven't played Yellow Enel in quite a bit. And, you know, I think this deck... People kind of hate it because, I mean, you can tell from watching the games. I mean, it seems pretty annoying to play against. It's just this, like, maybe the deck with the most survivability in the game. It's quite ridiculous, and I understand that, but I do think this deck is really interesting. I've always kind of enjoyed playing into it as well. I think it is a very unique matchup. Makes you think differently about the game and about the mechanics of the game, and I think it's interesting. So I like Enel. I'm glad that he's playable right now. Maybe a card like Borsalino and some of the Thriller Bark stuff is a bit ridiculous right now, but I'm glad that Enel can use it. Honestly, maybe it's a bit too much, but I still find this deck fun right now. He's cool and he's solid. I mean, you saw we beat a blue Yellow Nami player, we beat another Yellow Enel player, we beat a Mihawk player. Those are real decks. And yeah, I think this deck is not super meta right now, but definitely viable. And if you haven't played this deck, I recommend trying it out. It's a very unique playstyle, very fun. It's going to get you thinking about a lot of the mechanics in this game in a way you typically don't. And in my opinion, I think gives you a better understanding of them. So I definitely recommend trying this deck out. Now, my list is a bit thrown together. If I remember correctly, what I did is I kind of looked at an older NL list from like OP, I think like EB2 era, back when like this card came out. And I was just trying to like incorporate some of the newer cards into it. And that's how I ended up with the Thriller Bark and then the Borsalino and like, right. But Kikunojo, Basil Hawkins, 3-cost trigger blocker, this card, always been around in NL, right? Zeus back when Zeus was added, right? And for that, I don't think I really thought too hard about some other options that I may have been missing out on. I think the big important card that needs to be considered in this deck is Raigo or Kingdom Come. Translation thing, it's different some places. But this card, I mean, yeah, if you're at 1 life, it's pretty much just it's a red rock, you know what I mean? And this was banned for a bit. I mean, this card is quite good, but it's unbanned now. They're like, hey, Yellow Enel, you can use it. It was really banned for another deck list, black, yellow Luffy, really, more so than Enel. Because it makes more sense in this deck, So, definitely worth running. Would have allowed us to kind of compete with the mirror match or with other decks that are just playing a lot of top end, which honestly is a lot of decks right now. Red, blue, ace, blue, yellow, Nami, a lot of these like 10-cost characters, really helpful in situations like that. Just allowing you to clear a board when they have blockers and like whatnot, or if they have so many cards in hand, or if you're kind of down on board, this card can be really important. I don't know what I'd get rid of. I guess I'll talk about the cards I'm kind of iffy on. Is the 4-cost Hawkins and Kikunojo, it's nice, but we do have the Thriller Bark stuff for our like 4-cost on-curve plays. Maybe cards like these aren't necessary in this deck anymore, so I'm kind of thinking about removing them, maybe making room for Raigo. So there's things to be thought of there. I think other things is maybe this Salome, I really like it for the trigger, but there's other good yellow blockers I've seen people run in this list. I think a big one I saw, there was a game I played that it wasn't in today's video. Yeah, they're running this card. So it's this 2-cost blocker that draws a card on block later in the game. This deck is all about the resource game. Getting 1 card draw from a blocker like this is actually quite a big deal. Personally, I think there's too much like small removal and like resting, or there's too much counters for cheap blockers right now in this game. So I personally wouldn't run a card like this, but it's definitely worth running for sure. Maybe also this 5-cost Sanji. I know this deck used to run this a bit. It's a 5-cost blocker. If you have 2 or less life, draw 2, trash 1. Resource card, blocker, very solid, worth running. Maybe instead of these like 4-cost bodies, because I was playing out like the Kikunojo or even the Dr. Hogback and stuff, and then just kind of not using them. And at first I'm thinking like, okay, that's kind of just me. Like I should have kept them in my hand. That's kind of me misplaying. But maybe if these were different cards, I would be able to play these out more often and feel good about it. So there's definitely things to think about. And I will say Yellow Enel is kind of like, I called him earlier, he's like the cockroach of this game. He just always comes back, you know what I mean? He's always alive and healthy in the meta, at least every few sets. He comes back all the time, and he ends up being relevant. It's really funny for how old this leader is. OP5. That's, I think, the oldest non-rotated set. You know what I mean? OP5, yeah. And because of that, he's been through so many different eras of this game and used so many different types of card, and this deck has proven that he'll really just use like any generically good yellow card. Really, there's so much yellow cards that like work in this deck. It's just due to how strong this leader effect is. I think inherently he just kind of like uses generic cards better than a lot of other decks. So I implore you, look through a yellow card list, think about other cards, experiment with them in this deck. They may work, honestly. A lot of stuff works in this deck, in my opinion, and is worth trying out. But I do think that Most of the cards in this deck are pretty like staples. I think Thriller Bark Engine is just super strong. Borsellino super strong. These late game cards are super strong. And I think some of these 2Ks like Zeus are super strong and you're the one who should disappear. Maybe not Frankie. I like this card. Trigger Body, draw, solid. But maybe there's other stuff to run. But there's definitely a bunch of slots that you could mess around with, and I think this deck has a lot of potential to look into what kind of support cards it could need that no one's really using right now that could work well. Or even I think, like in the future, some yellow card could get added that may not seem like it's that good, but it'll be really good in this deck because Yellow Enel just kind of uses most yellow cards pretty well, I think. So yeah, definitely recommend trying out this leader. I had a lot of fun with it. I think it's super relevant right now. And that's pretty much all I have for today's video. If you want to see more content like this, subscribe to the YouTube. A lot of the games that I play, I stream on Twitch, so make sure you follow the Twitch as well. Follow the Twitter. Everything should be linked below, linked on the YouTube channel. Leave a like if you like this video. Leave a comment if you have anything you want to talk about with this deck list or about any of the games. And that's pretty much it. I hope you guys have a great day.